Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my diary entry for the week of July 30th through August 5th. Today is Saturday, August 5th, and it's pretty hot outside. There were actually a couple days this week where we didn't actually have to turn our air cooler on. It was still hot, but it wasn't hot enough where I felt like, oh my gosh, this is unbearable. So yeah, I guess that's something to be happy about, right? But I did have to turn it on again today, and it is still quite warm in here. But obviously I have all of my filming lights and everything, so that's not helping, but it is what it is. I actually finished quite a few things this week. So I am participating in the Orilium Magical Readathon, as well as the 801 Reads, or 801 Festival, Boys Love Festival Readathon, being hosted by 365-801. Again, announcements are linked down in the description box below in case you are interested or haven't heard about them. But yeah, I've been focusing a lot on the 801 Readathon because it's only until August 7th, so from the 1st to the 7th. And so I've kind of put off a majority of my reads for the Orilium Magical Readathon. That being said, I did start the Orilium Magical Readathon early because we were able to start on the 29th, and I actually finished my last book that I was reading for July that wasn't for the Orilium Magical Readathon on the 29th, after I had finished talking to you last week. So I started on just some easy stuff to finish before August started. When August started, I put all of my concentration in on stuff that would fit for the 801 Festival Readathon. So I've got quite a few things to talk to you about today. I'm also in the middle of a couple of things, so I'll talk to you about that. I have a half-finished object that I'll talk to you about, and then I guess I'll share with you a very, very tiny wax haul. So let's get into it. I'm going to have to pull up Goodreads because I did finish quite a few things digitally this week. And so yeah, like I mentioned, I did finish my last kind of book for July after I finished filming last week, and that was Helicoprion by Michael Cole. This is a prehistoric shark thriller novel. So basically the Helicoprion is a shark that kind of has a kind of circular saw type jaw, and is able to slice through things very easily with its sharp teeth, and it went extinct a long time ago. But this book starts off with the Helicoprion munching on several people, so you really get that feel of the shark like thriller kind of horror-esque feeling right off the bat. As the book progresses and the shark takes more victims, we find that one of the victims is a marine biologist who actually survived the attack, and she makes it her mission to take out this shark. And so we get her on board. There are a couple of police detectives that come on the scene. There's obviously people trying to cover it up, and things like that. People who don't believe what the marine biologist is saying, even though she's a marine biologist and obviously saw what had attacked her, but nobody believes it. And then, you know, things like that happen. So it's got your typical, like, kind of keep it under wraps type of storyline. I borrowed this one off of Kindle Unlimited. It was very intriguing for me because I always look for shark type books in July or for July because of Shark Week. And I like to kind of read and watch all of the documentaries and things like that. And so this one definitely gave me everything I was looking for a sharky thriller. Definitely got all of those attack scenes. You have some characters who are affected by the situation. You have a character who is like kind of working what he believes to be true, but a lot of people look down on him because of something that happened in his past. And then you've got like the whole conspiracy cover-up thing, and there's just a lot of different angles that this book has that kept my interest. And you get scenes from not only are people who were following trying to uncover the truth, you get scenes from a couple of other groups, and I'm not going to go into detail about those because it would be a spoiler, but you get scenes with them. And then you also get scenes from the shark's perspective. And just everything in this book really worked for me. It really worked for me. I was so afraid that the end of this book was going to have something wonky or just a weird like twist, because I have gone into books like this before where I really enjoyed it up until a certain point, and then things rapidly went downhill for me. And I was afraid that this was going to happen with this book. Thankfully, that is not what happened. I really, really enjoyed this one. I definitely recommend it, especially if you're not like averse to people being eaten on page. It's pretty gory. And so if you can't like read stuff like that and not get sick, definitely give this a pass. But it didn't affect me too much. I quite enjoyed all of those scenes. It really like set up the mood for me with this book. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad that I did, because I have a lot of Michael Cole's works on my radar, especially like his couple of Megalodon books. I believe it's a duology. And then he has one that's called Scar, I believe. And then there's like a Thresher Shark book. He's got a couple of different Sharky type books, and I'm really interested to read all of them now. And he has a couple of other types of books as well that I'm interested in. And so, yes, really, really enjoyed it. Solid 4-star read for me. Exactly what I was looking for Shark Month. And like I said, I will be looking more into this author's work in the future. Now, after that, I was able to start with my Orilium Magical Readathon prompts, and I thought, you know, a great way to do that would be to start with a couple of manga, because I could easily get those read before the 801 Readathon starts. And so I decided to try to work on my Dragon Riders license. And so within the Orilium Magical Readathon, there are a couple of extra things that you can achieve during the autumn equinox semester. One of them is a Dragon Riders license. And I thought that's pretty necessary if I didn't want to be walking everywhere, right? So I started with my Dragon Riders license, and the things that you needed to do to obtain that were to read two books that have dragons in them, and then watch a movie that has dragons in them. And so for the books that have dragons in them, I decided to reread Volume 1 of Ragna Crimson by Daiki Kobayashi, published by Square Enix, rated older teen, and then to continue and read Volume 2. So we had read Ragna Crimson Volume 1 for the Monochrome Manga Club. I believe I have a series first impressions video, which I will link down in the description box below if you're interested in my first impressions of just Volume 1. But this series follows our character here on the cover, and he's a low-level dragon hunter. His name is Ragna. How did I not know that? His name is Ragna. So at the very beginning of this story, you find out that he's a low-level dragon hunter, and he's paired up with this like prodigy. It's a young girl. She's like 12 years old, but she has the most dragon kills of all of the dragon hunters. And so he's been with her for a bit. He is older, so he kind of takes care of her. There are things that have happened in his past, but they work well together. Even though he's not as talented as she is, he kind of takes care of her at night. You know, she pretty much does a majority of the fighting. and they go around making their money by killing dragons. One night, though, Ragna starts having these prophetic dreams, telling him that if he stays with this girl, she will get killed. And so he starts to unwind. He starts to panic. He has anxiety. He can't sleep. And he doesn't know how to stop that from happening. He doesn't know if what he's dreaming about is actually going to come true, until one day he finally gets that realization that yes, if he stays with her, she will die. So the only way to protect her is to leave. And so he does that. And he ends up partnering with another character named Crimson. And they are out to take down the head of the dragons. Kind of from the inside, because Crimson is actually a dragon. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed the first volume when I read it. In fact, you can kind of see the difference in size here. Volume 1 is very thick compared to Volume 2. But I really enjoyed Volume 1 when I first read it. On reread, it wasn't as enjoyable for me. I did lower my rating from a 4.5 to a 4. It's still enjoyable. It just wasn't as enjoyable for me on reread. So I really enjoyed rereading this one. I did continue to Volume 2. This definitely had, like, kind of the feel of what I felt while watching some of the arcs during Fairy Tail by Hiro Mashima. It kind of gave me that same feeling, what happened in this volume. And so I'm really interested in continuing with this series. The art style is interesting. It does also have that kind of little bit of comedy thrown in here and there with everything that's happening, because we are dealing with dragons that are taking out humans. They do kill a lot of people, and there are things going on with the dragons, especially in this one, where you're kind of starting to figure out what they want, what their end objective is. And so, yeah, I'm really interested to see how Ragna and Crimson's partnership continue and what the end of their relationship will be, and obviously see if they're successful. I would think that they will be, if this is to have any sort of semi-happy ending, right? But yeah, both of these have dragons. Obviously, there's a dragon here on the cover too. And Crimson, this character here, is a dragon, and this is their, like, human form. And so, yes, really enjoyed those. Both of those got 4 stars for me. Like I said, I lowered my rating on Volume 1 from 4.5 to 4, but still enjoyable. And that helped me to complete my prompts for the Dragon Riders license. And then last night, to finish off that license requirement, we watched Flight of Dragons, which is a movie from 1986. It's a movie that I have really loved since I was a little kid. And actually, my character for the Orilium Academy is named after a character in this movie. And so, yes, we watched that yesterday. Really enjoyed it. And so I was able to obtain my Dragon Riders license. So those were the first few things that I had finished reading for the end of July, early August. And then I went all in on the 801 Readathon. So the first thing I finished, I actually didn't start this in August, but I finished it in August. And that is Volume 2 of the Criminal Intention series by Cole McCade. Technically, this is Season 1, Episode 2, because this book series is laid out like a TV show. So we're kind of in the first season. And this is a series that's police procedural. And we have our 2 characters who are both gay detectives. And in the first book in this series, they become partners. So we have Song Jae, who comes from the LAPD. And then we have Malcolm Kawaji, who is like a lone wolf type character. He doesn't work well with partners. He hates working with other people. He just likes to do things on his own, and he ends up getting paired with Songjae Yoon. Malcolm is Persian and Songjae is Korean. There's a 10-year age difference in between them, but Songjae is actually higher ranking than Malcolm. And so when the captain pairs them together, she kind of makes it a point to tell him, okay, this guy outranks you, and that irritates Malcolm, like, to no end. And so he has to work with this guy. He hates working with partners, and more so this guy outranks him. So they don't get off to the right foot on their first meeting. But the reason that they're paired together for the case in the first book is because it has to do with gay men being murdered. And so it's a serial killer case. And so you follow them getting to know each other, getting to know their work style and how each works the case and things like that. And so we're continuing with this series in this book. They have another case. And so it's very much like any of your normal police type TV shows, Law and Order, CSI, you know, that type of thing. But I would say it's more like Criminal Minds in the type of case that they work in Volume 1. Volume 2, I would say more like CSI. Both of those books started with the murder of the victim from the victim's perspective. So you actually see what happens to them in motion. And then you get to see Malcolm and Songjae work the case. And so I really, really enjoy Criminal Minds. I watched the whole thing. I'm watching the reboot. We really enjoy shows like that in our house. And so I was very, very intrigued with that first book in the series. And I really have been enjoying this series as I read through it. So I finished this one. This one, the case is not as, I would say, like, involved as the case in the first book. It definitely was like a less level. Like I said, more CSI as opposed to like Criminal Minds. But there's definitely a murder that takes place, and our police detectives are kind of reeling with the things that they saw, the reasoning behind the killings, and they're affected by it. And so they're kind of having to go to department mandated therapy, and Malcolm doesn't want to do it. And, you know, there are other things that are affecting them emotionally in regards to the things that they experienced and things like that. And so we're not only getting like more of them investigating together, but we're getting more of them getting to know each other and, you know, kind of seeing things steam up a bit between them. And yeah, I've been really, really enjoying it. And so this one definitely had a steamy sex scene in here. But like I said, the case wasn't as interesting to me. It wasn't as interesting to me. And it definitely kind of had less of a like intrigue factor for me because of things that happened during the case. Like the reason certain people were brought in for questioning. There's just something in there that's a kind of trope that I don't enjoy. And so, yeah, it was still entertaining to listen to. I am still listening to it on audiobook. I did combo read this. And there's just something about the audiobooks that I'm not enjoying as much as reading it physically, because Malcolm is supposed to be like 43 years old. Songjae is in his 30s. And the way that they've narrated Malcolm, he sounds like a 70-year-old man to me. And that's not enjoyable. Especially when you think about the fact that I think Songjae and Malcolm are going to get together. So, in my mind, when I'm listening to the audiobook, I'm thinking, okay, Malcolm's like this 70-year-old man and Songjae's like in his 30s. That doesn't work for me. That does not work for me. Even though I know that Malcolm's supposed to be 43, when I listen to him, he sounds 70. So that's what I get. And then Songjae, the way he's narrated, I don't enjoy either. There's something about him that's very brusque. And I don't know if the narrator's doing that because Songjae's Korean and he's trying to put forth the fact that Songjae was born in Korea. And so the way that he phrases things and kind of even the way he acts and talks is very not smooth. And I don't know, it just sounds not great to me. The impression I'm getting is not good. And that's definitely not how I read either of those characters when I'm reading physically. So, yeah. I did purchase these because, like I mentioned in last week's diary entry, I am letting go of my Kindle Unlimited subscription. So I got this one off of Amazon used. And I actually really like these publications. They're nice to hold. The pages are nice and white. The print is on the bigger side, but makes it easy to read, and the covers are suede. So I really, really like that. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. I still gave the first one like 4 stars though. But yeah, definitely continuing with this series and enjoyed that one. And that is like a non-Japanese boys love because we are in America in that story, and our characters are Persian and Korean, so that's also prose, so that helped me knock off that prompt for the 801 readathon, so that's great. Then I decided to read The Anatomist by Esa Parr. This is published by Tokyo Pop Rated Mature. This is available on Hoopla for me. So if you're interested in reading this one, check your Hoopla offerings from your library and see if it's available for you. I did borrow it from Kindle Unlimited. This is a historical story about an anatomist. And this anatomist does his experimentation, or research, I should say, on live bodies, not cadavers. So when this story opens up, we actually see the anatomist slicing into somebody and seeing how the muscles work as this person moves. And so it was a pretty eye-opening way to start a story. Before you even get there though, there is a 1-page letter from the author explaining what they were doing and things like that, which I definitely appreciated. I still wasn't prepared for the, what would you call that, autopsy on a live body? It was really, really pretty gruesome. He kind of did that Y incision on the back and had the guy move his arm so that he could see the muscles move so that he could do his drawing. And so that's what this guy does. And he has this guy who's like a willing participant in his experiments. But then you find out later that the anatomist raised this guy. So when he's doing these research sessions, the guy is an adult. He is an adult, but you get later on in the series that he kind of raised him from childhood. And so he's kind of raised this person, and this now person, I don't know what it's called. Is it Stockholm Syndrome or Munchausen by proxy? But he thinks that he has to do these things. He has to let the anatomist cut into him to do his research because he loves him so much. He's kind of under that delusion that he loves the anatomist. And so, yeah, we kind of meet them that way with him getting sliced open. And then later on in the story, the anatomist needs more. He needs more. He needs more inspiration. So he ends up purchasing the services of an intersex person, and the story is kind of how that intersex person and our person who was being researched on at the beginning of the story meet for the first time, how having the intersex person in the household has affected the other guy's relationship with the anatomist, and then how the relationship between, I'm going to say, these two victims of the anatomist kind of grows. I would say what happened to them, how the anatomist has treated them, kind of gives them a way to connect with each other. And so, yeah, the author of this one shot is German, and you know that based on the letter that's provided at the very beginning of the manga. Or I don't even think you'd call this a manga. They called it a manga. It reads in the way that a manga is read, but this is not Japanese. It's not Japanese at all. It takes place in historical France. And the typical definition of manga is a Japanese comic. So this is not Japanese at all, but it reads in the form of a manga. It reads in the direction of a manga. So yeah, and it is in the manga section of Hoopla. All that being said, I ended up giving this story a 2.5 star rating. It was just okay. I didn't really enjoy the story at all, though I did enjoy what happened at the very, very end of this story. I thought that was a nice ending. And I did enjoy all of the time that we ended up getting to spend with the author. Because, like I said, at the beginning we got a full page letter. At the end, you get to see the progress drawings and how she decided to create the costumes and things like that. And there are little notes and things. And I really like that insight when we get it from the mangakas or the creators. And so, yeah, historical is not usually for me. And I definitely don't like the I've adopted you or I've raised you and now we're like sexual trope. Don't like that at all either. Plus, the anatomist is not a good guy, and you know that just from the first few pages. And yeah, there was a lot not to enjoy about the story. But there were definitely things that were like silver linings, I would guess you would say. So I wouldn't reread this one. I can't recommend it, especially because of the gruesomeness of what had happened and things that I had issues with. But it was definitely an interesting title. So anyway, I read that one for the 801 Reads or BL Festival Readathon. Non-Japanese BL. I didn't find any the bingo board items on it because most of that stuff is like either traditional Japanese or like more contemporary things. But I definitely read something that was non-Japanese BL. So that's where I put that one. The next thing I read was called And I Love You. This is another one-shot, but it's kind of like 5 short stories. This one is by Masato Inoue, I think. It's written in Japanese on Goodreads. Yeah, Masato Inoue. 5 short stories. It's available on Kindle Unlimited as the individual short stories. And then there's a bind-up that's available, but it's not available to borrow on Kindle Unlimited, but it is available to purchase. So, of these 5 short stories, there is one about a stepdad who gets a romantic confession from his stepson. Yeah, that's the first one. I didn't enjoy that one. I just got finished telling you I don't enjoy the I raised you and now we're sexual trope. It didn't even go that far, but basically this guy married the stepson's mom when the stepson was 10 years old. The mom dies, and so he's been raising the boy since, and then now the boy's in college and he makes a romantic confession to the stepdad. And so it's kind of them trying to figure out what their relationship will be going forward. And I think that's all I'm going to say about that. Like I said, it's clean. The story is clean. So I appreciated that. And it kind of was left open-ended, which I didn't really like, but yeah, it was okay. I do like the art style. And so that was the first one. And each of the stories have titles. So the first one was called Playing House. The second one was called Snowdrop Code, which I believe this one was about a guy who just broke up with his boyfriend and ended up like getting rid of all of the ex-boyfriend stuff. He ends up going to a bar and getting drunk and meets another guy who has just gotten kicked out of his place by his girlfriend, and they just broke up. And so in a drunk stupor, the guy says, hey, you can come live with me. And so they're kind of like working out their new living arrangement. That one was good. I enjoyed that one. That one was a little spicy, just a little bit. And I enjoyed that one. The third one is called My Master in the Bookshelves. This is about 2 high school students, I believe, who are just newly starting to date, except one of them wants a little bit more out of the relationship. He kind of feels like, yeah, they're dating, but nothing has changed between them since they stopped being friends and took that extra step to date. And it turns out that there's a reason why the other guy hasn't progressed things. I enjoyed that one a little bit. I would say definitely under Snowdrop Code, but more than Playing House. The fourth story was called Frill Boy, and this is about a boy who's more feminine looking. This one I didn't enjoy a lot of the stuff that happened because they throw around a derogatory word starting with an F for gay men a lot in this story. I mean, this story is short, but I must have seen that word at least 10 times or variations of it, and I did not enjoy that. But anyway, the story follows this feminine looking guy, and you can see him being bullied for his looks from elementary school, and that ends up turning him into like a kind of fighter type of guy. Anytime somebody like calls him that now in high school, he punches their lights out. He gets into lots of fights. And when he was a little kid, he had a friend, and the friend wasn't courageous enough to help whenever the feminine looking boy was getting picked on. And so one particular day when things were really bad and the friend didn't step in, our main character just basically said, I hate you, I don't want to be friends with you anymore, and has never talked to this guy anymore. And so now they're in high school, and this guy has now come to the school and wants to repair their relationship. And so it's a kind of friends to lovers type story. I enjoyed the story outside of all of those derogatory F-bombs being dropped. Yeah, the story outside of that was good though. I would say probably under Snowdrop Code, above Master in the Bookshelves, and Playing House. And then the last story in this collection is called My Classmate Tatano. And this is a story about a guy who's very popular, and he always gets confessions from girls, but he's never interested in any of them, and he's not sure why. And then he's going back to the classroom one day, and he sees his classmate locking lips with another guy. And then that guy, to kind of blackmail him, smooches our character. And so it kind of starts this kind of whole exploratory relationship between the two of them. And I enjoyed that one as well. It was really sweet. And so I would say of the 5, Snowdrop Code is probably my favorite. Then My Classmate Tatano, Frill Boy, Master in the Bookshelves, and then Playing House. So overall, I gave that volume 3 stars. It was enjoyable, it was entertaining. I probably won't read it again. And then last night, or I should say very early this morning, I finished my most recent 2 reads for the Boys Love Readathon, and that is Dekoboko Bittersweet Days, which is Dekoboko Sugar Days Volume 2, and Dekoboko Sugar Rush Extra, which is Dekoboko Sugar Days Volume 4. So last year, in 2022, during the Manga Pride Readathon, I buddy read Dekoboko Sugar Days Volume 1 with my friend Bizarre Individual. And so this year on Hoopla, my library has offered Dekoboko Bittersweet Days and Dekoboko Sugar Rush Extra, Volume 2. But they didn't have the 3rd one. So since there were extras, I didn't feel bad about skipping to the 4th one. But basically, Dekoboko Bittersweet Days is following the happenings in Dekoboko Sugar Days. And the series is basically a best friends to lovers romance story. In the first volume, we meet our characters, we see how they met each other. You know, they've known each other since they were kids, and then we see them both grappling with the fact that they both have romantic feelings for each other, but don't like tell each other that. And then they do end up getting together. In Dekoboko Bittersweet Days, we're following them through the latter part of high school and making college decisions and things like that. So it does say it's bittersweet days. There are things that happen in making those decisions. But I still really enjoyed watching the romance blossom between our 2 characters and how everything worked out between them, especially with what happened in this volume. And then the Dekoboko Sugar Rush Extra is just even further along with just watching their relationship blossom past the Bittersweet Days volume. So I really enjoy the series. I gave both of those volumes 4 stars. The Sugar Rush Extra is only like 40-something pages or so. It was really, really sweet. These are both published by Tokyo Pop, rated mature. Just so that you know, there is spicy scenes in this one, but the relationship between our characters is very, very sweet and very understanding, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I also actually enjoyed the other volume that I read by this author called This Wonderful Time with You or something, which was also available on Hoopla. That one was also a very sweet story. But anyway, back to the 8-in-1 readathon. I did fill out some of the things on the bingo card with these 2 volumes, and so that was really helpful because up until that point I hadn't really filled out the bingo card. So I was able to fill out a few things on the bingo card, like height difference, and a couple other things that I can't think of off the top of my head because I actually haven't filled out the bingo card, but I know those boxes are there. So yeah, that brings up everything that I finished this week since I talked to you last. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 titles. That's a lot. And so now let's get into what I am currently in the middle of. So I am currently in the middle of Fence Disarmed. This is by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is the 2nd book in the Fence novels. I read the first Fence novel, Striking Distance, in June for the Manga Pride Readathon. So this continues with our 4 guys at King's Row. I always want to say King's Cross. King's Row Academy and the fencing team there. And in this one, they are going to a special fencing camp in France. And it directly follows the events that happen in the first book. So there's some angsty stuff going on right now. It's stuff that I'm not really enjoying with this character here. But I will say that this couple, or these 2 characters, are the characters I am most interested from the first book, which is why I'm reading this one, because I'm kind of hoping that something will happen with these 2 characters because of what happened in the first one. Yeah, I really enjoyed their relationship in the first volume. They were childhood friends. They're on the fencing team together, but like I said, something happened in the first book, and now this one's starting to act out, and so I'm not really enjoying that. But they are on their way to France now, where I am. And so I am on chapter 10, page 77, and you can see, which is something that I didn't have when I read Striking Distance, because I listened to it on audiobook. I had an audiobook copy from the audiobook sync program, so I don't actually have the physical copy, but I think I will probably need to get it, because there is art done by the artist that works on the Fence comics within the books. So that's just like the cover page kind of art, and then you've got the characters here. So you've got Aiden, Harvard, Seiji, and Nicholas. And then at the beginning of each chapter, you have the character that perspective you're from in that character. So I really enjoy that. And then at the back, there is also some scenes of things that happen throughout the story. So I think I will need to pick up Striking Distance physically as well, but so far I'm really enjoying it, though I'm not enjoying Aiden lashing out. But I figure that's got to let up sometime, right? And it looks like we're actually going to get some fencing in this story, which would be appreciated, because there wasn't any actual fencing in the first book, which is something that I definitely missed out on. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. And then I went straight into the third book in the Criminal Intention series. So this is season 1, episode 3, The Man with the Glass Eye. And so I am about 50% done. I'm on page 163. This one again is really good. It looks like the case involves some drugs in this one. So Song Jae and Malcolm are having to work together with narcotics, and the relationship between narcotics and homicide is not good. So we just had that scene, and I'm really enjoying this series. It definitely feels like I'm reading a TV show every time I sit down with one of these volumes. And like I said, I'm definitely enjoying reading the text more than I am listening to the audiobooks. But at the same time, I do enjoy listening to the audiobooks and combo reading, because it helps me get through the book faster. But yes, really enjoying this one. Definitely some things happening between Songjae and Malcolm personally in that installment, and things get pretty steamy between them. Undercover, of course. But yes, really enjoying that so far. Looking forward to finding out more about the case that they are working on in that one. And that's everything that I'm currently reading. It's everything that I've read. So now let's get into my finished knitting item. I have a half-finished knitting item. I finished this sock. So this is my daughter's Crunkled Hippos for Christmas, because this is the Crunkled pattern by Kay Jones. The yarn is Hippos for Christmas 2018 from Lolo Did It Yarn. And so I did finish her first sock. So this is a Cascade Heritage in like just a teal colorway. I don't know what it's called. And then I did 15 rows of 2x2 rib, 48 rows of the Crunkle pattern, a slip stitch heel flap, and square heel turn. And then I did 55 rows in the foot, and then I did my lightning toe, which is just a way that I do decreases to take away that like tab that shows up when you do more rounded toes. And so yeah, so I finished this last night while we were watching Castle, and so I did not start the second one, mostly because my hands feel bruised. They feel bruised. I don't know if it's because I am reading heavier books at night, where I'm like normally just reading mass market. I'm now reading 2 trade paperback copies. They are heavier, and I don't know if that's messing with my hands, but both of my hands, when I'm knitting or like even like doing this, feels like my entire hand through my fingertips is bruised. And so that is not a comfortable feeling. So after I finished this sock last night, I stopped knitting because I literally just had the toe to do. So I did do the toe last night. So we'll see how I feel about starting the next sock tonight. And if I do, you'll see some progress next week. But I probably shouldn't let that languish, because otherwise I'll never start the second sock, and then this will be a languishing whip for a long time. So I'm glad to have that done. And then I told you I was going to share with you just a really, really tiny wax haul. So I got my patron perk from Otaku Sense this week. And so I am a patron of Otaku Sense. So every month I get a free wax melt. And normally I not only get the wax melt I request, but I get something extra. So this month we requested Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Katara is like a fresh, aquatic, really nice fragrance. We've had Katara before, and so always nice to get an extra clamshell of a fragrance we really enjoy as part of our patron membership. And then this month we got a free like tester kind of wax. So from time to time, Otaku Sense will have these unmarked clams of fragrances that they were testing, like mixes that they were thinking about for upcoming character releases that is not going to make the lineup. And so they're never named, there's no scent notes or anything, but we get them for free. So this is the second time I've gotten one of these unmarked ones. One time I even got two, actually, like from the actual line clams. But yeah, I'm never unhappy that I get these. The fragrances are always a surprise. This particular one kind of smells cologne, like men's cologne, but it's like a fresh men's cologne, which is the type of men's cologne fragrance that I enjoy, more fresh as opposed to more like sultry or dark. This is definitely a brighter type of cologne fragrance. And I think I'm going to enjoy melting that. So that was my patron perk for the month. And so that's everything that I have for you for this week. So my plan for next week is I have tonight and 2 more days to read more stuff for the 801 Readathon. So that's going to be my focus through Monday. And then I will dive headfirst into everything that I need to complete for the Orilium Magical Readathon. So I'm feeling pretty good about my reading so far. I've gotten lots of things read already this month. I borrowed a lot more things than I anticipated. I thought I'd pull off of my shelves for the BL Festival Readathon, but considering that I will be giving up my Kindle Unlimited subscription, I'm trying to use that to its fullest before I don't have that anymore. And so, yeah. And we'll see what else I get into for the next week. But let me know down in the comments below what you've been up to this week. How did you finish out July? Did you finish everything that you planned on reading? Did you finish on a really great book or a mediocre one? And let me know what your highest and lowest rated reads of the month were. I'd really love to know. Also, let me know if you're participating in any readathons this month, including the 801 Readathon or the Orilium Magical Readathon. And if you are, what profession you're going for and what house you're in. I'd really love to know. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a rainbow emoji for the BL Festival Readathon, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.